I'm running 52 5Ks in 52 weeks. And like the start of most American road trips, I'm starting on a beach in the rain.
Thunder in the area meant that I stayed indoors at the official start time, but apparently they went ahead with the race, which was bold. Thankfully, since the 30K relay was running in parallel, they let me run the course 2 hours later on my own. Not even a half mile in, I realized just how much I had to shake off the cobwebs from not running for 4 months, coupled with not stretching properly from the opportunity being so sudden. It was painful, it was in the pouring rain, but I just witnessed the same conditions a week ago at the Boston Marathon, so I was determined to finish. The finish ended up being just as confusing as the start though, because Strava only measured 2.96 miles from me trying to run the whole course, so I guess we'll call this week 0. 37 minutes, 1 second, and 13:05 per mile. Clearly, I've got some work to do.
I'm running 52 5Ks in 52 weeks, and because I really wanted to continue all stereotypes of Connecticut, we're doing it on a golf course. While week 1 was a humbling kick back into gear, week 2 was a more objective look into where my fitness was at. The Mahoney Sable 5K in Cromwell, Connecticut is built to be a test, with a V-shaped course elevation-wise to give you a whole scope of your endurance. The first half of the race was a good coast, steady 11-minute per mile pace, but the minute you're taking uphill again, it's steep and it takes forever, meaning I had to back off and run walk the rest of the way. Training for the next week is simple. All the cramping was in the shin muscles, we're gonna foam roll like hell, go back to the longer runs to build up their strength again. 35:10 the final chip time, 11:18 per mile, still making progress, but still a long way to go. I'm running 52 5Ks in 52 weeks. This week reminds us of the cardinal rule running your first 5K. It's okay to walk. My PR is 30 minutes and I'm not in 30-minute form, and that's okay, but we have a way to get there. While running 2 laps around the charming shoreline town of Stonington, Connecticut, I went back to the strategy that got me through to the New York City Marathon. I scheduled my time of when to walk in cycles, so for every half mile of running, I would walk for a 1/10 a mile, then rinse and repeat until the finish. This was a local race with only about 100 runners, so this was the perfect low-pressure environment to focus on that pattern from start to end. But it was hot, so don't let the cool May mornings fool you. 35:06 chip time, only a 4-second improvement, but a solid game plan is in place with 49 races to go. Whose Tucci is that? I'm running 52 5Ks in 52 weeks. And we're rounding out the first month with a goal that's often overused, but entirely true. Trusting the process. The Race in the Park in New Britain is one of the largest fundraisers for breast cancer research in Connecticut, spearheaded by a 5K around Walnut Hill with participants in the thousands. Last week, we turned needing to walk into a set strategy, but now comes the progression of stretching out that schedule until I'm running the whole way. So for this week, we have the same half-mile cycles as last week, but this week after running the entire first half of the race. And it seemed to work, until I was blindsided, thanks to the 2-mile mark when they decided to introduce a 70-foot hill conducted from the depths of hell. So the back half was messier than I wanted it to be, but my standard running speed is feeling more natural. We're slowly building up the weekly mileage, and it's slowly building up the strength in my legs in return. Another 20 seconds down with a 34:46. We're in the right direction with 11 months to go. I'm running 52 5Ks in 52 weeks. And you're not gonna believe this. I actually placed. Yes, this 6-hour marathon finisher was somehow the top 20-something in this race, but it was more than just new silverware. This week, I made the shift from stability shoes to neutrals to see if my feet weren't as quirky as I originally thought, and I was introduced to Run 169, an amateur running club where folks try racing in every town in Connecticut, of which I've gotten 13. There's just one problem. We're all greeted right off the bat with a steep 40-foot hill, followed immediately by another 80-foot hill. So yes, if we're given the Hillary step from Everest to start, I'm taking my time on this one, Kathy.
Oh, on this one?
So this race was more 4 blocks of running with 10th mile blocks of walking in between. But these Sauconys felt great. It was bouncier without causing any new pain on my legs, so it seems like we can keep going with them. Met some nice regulars I suspect I'll be seeing throughout this challenge, and still chipping away at it. 34:10 the final chip time, which hey, I guess that makes me the fastest 20-something this week. I'm running 52 5Ks in 52 weeks. And nothing says America like scenery around the lake and the start of summer. It's Memorial Day weekend in Marlborough, Connecticut. For the second week in a row, I found myself at a local race in the mostly rural northeast of Connecticut. And I've learned something about this region. They like their pain early and effective. Here at Lake Terramuggus in Marlborough, you begin with the Verrazano Bridge style, 125 straight feet of climbing the opening half mile. And it's here that we see the dividends of training with 10 miles a week and a 5-mile long run. I didn't walk the scary hill. Didn't even walk until the halfway point, and even then we were down to 2 10th-mile blocks. This Memorial Day greeted us with heat. So much so that the GoPro gave up after about 20 minutes. But this is a lesson for when you're on your journey. Consistency does in fact matter. Because right now it's creating subtle but consistent wins until all of a sudden we're zooming. Another barrier smashed with a 33:27. We're officially under the 11-minute per mile threshold. I'm running 52 5Ks in 52 weeks. When I was a kid playing The Sims 2, Simsbury was a good pun, so I made it the name of my town. But in real life, Simsbury is home to one of the biggest events on the running calendar. Here at the Yukon Health Half Marathon 10K and 5K, expected participants are in the thousands every year, so I finally made the race an hour early to beat the traffic. And secondly, I had finally unlocked the UCAN gels that I got in as freebies at the Boston Marathon. Definitely not a taste I'm used to, but everything advertised about not messing up your
your stomach appears to be cap-free at the moment. The goal of the race was simple. We've been spending the last few races easing into running an entire 5K. This was the penultimate phase where we're just walking at the halfway point. But I'm not sure whether it was the new gels, the atmosphere, just today was one of those good days. Some days you feel off from the start, and others you realize,
hey, that's pretty good.
And it worked. We ran the whole way. A minute was taken off the best time of the challenge, and the finishing straight along Iron Horse Boulevard provided the perfect drag race for the first under 6-minute kilometer. We'll see if the races with more than 57 feet of elevation game end up taking us down a peg, but 32:21 is a massive step up. Now that we're running the whole way, we got a new goal. Break my personal best of a 30:26. I'm running a 5K race every week for an entire year. There's just one problem. This week's race wasn't a 5K. Let's rewind. June 11th followed the week of the Canadian wildfires, causing apocalyptic air in the Northeast, meaning all training was on the treadmill and nearly every race nearby got cancelled because, well,
this is fine.
Enter the last run standing, the Litchfield Hills Road Race. Looked like a popular run I hadn't heard of, never been to Litchfield before, so hey, full steam ahead, right? Of course, it wasn't until I got to the race and saw historical winning times at 38 minutes that I realized this was actually a 10K. And it wasn't until the 6-mile mark on basically a vertical hill that I realized, oh, this is longer than a 10K. 7.1 miles.
No way. What is this garbage?
I just got back to running all the way through a 5K a week ago. But running is like that sometimes. Curveballs will always happen on race day, whether the weather changes, you feel a new cramp, or you just casually forget to read and inadvertently have 4 more miles on your plate than prepared. So how'd the race go? Well, stay tuned for part 2.
I came in today thinking this was a 5K.
Welcome back to me running 52 5Ks in 52 weeks. So what happens when, in this challenge, you accidentally sign up for a race more than double the distance? Well, at the Litchfield Hills Road Race, in the heat and the suboptimal air quality, we experience every kind of running there is. The streets of the neighborhood, the trail running in the woods, cobblestones in the hot sun like it's Paris-Roubaix. Something with this amount of variation, the best thing you can do is just enjoy the moment and make it part of your training. In my case, every week of the challenge so far has included a 5-mile long run, so I attacked it in the same way that I've done there. Run for a half mile and then walk for a 10th. Rinse and repeat. Unfortunately, as it has many times in this challenge so far, the plan was derailed by a late stage hill, but nothing I've experienced before compares to this. 6 miles in, about 175 feet of climbing, within a mile.
First time?
So what began as a steady long run in the 11s didn't finish that way. But with a versatile course, bands playing 70s and 80s music all around, definitely a race I would try at least once in your running journey. Official tip time 1:24:39. We're back to the 5K distance next week. I'm running a 5K race every week for an entire year, working towards my personal best under 30 minutes, and in week 9 we're skydiving. Alright, let me tell you something! On most days, this spot in Ellington is a takeoff and landing zone for random folks like you and I to go tandem skydiving. But once a year they host a charity 5K in honor of a former jumper who passed away from ALS. The result? A cookout you gotta earn. First by zigzagging across the landing strip, then 2 miles of cross country running the perimeter of the property. This was the first ever cross country race for me, so we brought back the old Brooks adrenalines that got me through the marathon. Gotta get used to the instability of running on grass. And the goal here was just to prove consistency. Not all races are meant to get your PR, and with the last couple of weeks being pretty weird, it was just time to be sure the current form wasn't a fluke. It seemed alright in the end with a 32:45 final time. This race easily gets a 10 out of 10. I'm running a 5K race every week for an entire year. With week 10 being in the middle of suburbia and the progression looking like this, you might be wondering how my time has been able to improve so quickly. And I know it's gonna sound like a broken record, but say it with me, kids.
Consistency!
Fact is, I've come into this running journey with a very sedentary lifestyle. A little lifting here and there to feel productive and swole, but no cardio or serious aerobic exercise for years before 2020 when I started. But if you're just getting started, it's hard to believe that consistency is all it really takes. Especially if you found me on here, likely next to a gazillion videos making you feel terrible for not starting sooner. I don't know, I'm hoping that seeing someone find progress at 35 minutes, 32, 30 minutes, for a race distance as relatively short as a 5K, that initiates you being able to forgive yourself for where you are, in the same way that I've had to forgive myself during this whole journey, and keeps you from giving up just because you're not where you want to be yet. But at 31:35, we can tell that the speed is slowly increasing. 10 down, 42 to go.
This card just appeared in my hand. Explain that, atheists.
This is the most evil design for a 5K I've ever seen. I'm running a 5K race every week for an entire year, and on week 11, we're working to get under 30 minutes. So welcome to Norwich, Connecticut, where we found a race that's built to manipulate and torture you. First, they reel you in with the Rose Arts Festival that's all quaint and charming and Gilmore Girls coded. They even named it Rose Arts, I assume so that every millennial unlocks a core memory. Then, once you get right to the start, on a day with 90 degrees and Canada's secondhand smoke, over 200 straight feet of climbing in mile 1. It never ended. And even when it did, you assume from a loop course that it was just downhill the rest of the way. Au contraire. Oh, you're coasting in mile 2? Surprise! Here's some rolling hills to keep you honest. Enjoying the beauty of Mohegan Park? Watch out, we're going trail running.
Pocket sand.
This race resulted in probably the ugliest negative split of all time, but somehow we actually had progress, and you know what? I had a lot of fun in the end. 31:33 at the line, down 2 seconds this week, and we got some interesting ones coming up, so you're gonna want to follow to stay tuned. I ran a race against my former self. and lost. I'm running a 5K race every week for an entire year. 13 years ago, I ran a 5K at this 4th of July festival as a one-off. It has a middle schooler whose only training was inhaling a pound of pasta.
If my grandmother had wheels, she would have been a bike.
I got myself a 31:03. This go round, let's just say you learn the most from your biggest failures. The week of July 4th was a countdown to a much-needed vacation, followed immediately by moving house, and I lost discipline. Got the comfort takeout food, had that insomnia that comes from anxiety and excitement for big changes. I just didn't take care of myself, and paid the price by bonking halfway in. They say in investing that the higher lows tell you just as much about the strength of a company, arguably more. And seeing that my bad day now is 4 minutes faster than it was 3 months ago, there's still a lot to be proud of. With a 33:03 though, wake up call received. And we're coming up on the perfect opportunity to hit the reset button. Ever wanted to run in the same venues as track and field's finest? I'm running a 5K race every week for an entire year, trying to break 30 minutes for the first time. And this is Icon Stadium in Randall's Island, Manhattan. Each year, the New York Grand Prix is a tune-up race for world champions and Olympians alike. But a bit later in the summer, Tracksmith hosts Twilight 5000 races, where amateurs get a chance to run their own 5Ks on professional tracks around the world. Embrace yourselves, everybody, because the GoPro is in third-person view this time. This is actual footage of me running.
Oh, that's hot. That's hot.
Always jarring seeing the difference between the striding you feel and the striding you're actually doing. Not exactly Fredo in his heyday, but you know what? We're getting a little better at something every week, letting those race times slowly melt down. No difference here. Strava was actually a fiend this week, because according to them, I broke that 30 mark. But it doesn't matter what they say, it's all about the official race times, which is still an improvement. 31:14 down another 20 seconds. Big shout out to Tracksmith for putting these opportunities together. This is the best 5K in Boston, but it does come with a catch. I'm running a 5K race every week for an entire year. 15 weeks ago, I watched the Boston Marathon to gain some inspiration for this challenge, and now we're back, west of Southie at a public beach called Castle Island, and flirting with my first under 30-minute race. But events like these are the reasons why I have trust issues. See, Miles for Migraines is a national tour of charity races organized throughout the year, because while the internet has rightly banded together for the brave tummy ache sufferers out there, much research is still needed for the brain pain that affects millions. I also did a blindfold challenge for this race, so one rule: no checking the watch. Which is fine, because the weather conditions on this out and back were best case scenario. It truly felt better than any run I had done before, until I stopped the clock at the finish and saw Strava measured 5.5 kilometers. Was it the GPS on the phone? Did the organizers not measure it cleanly? No real way to tell, but you know the rules. It's the official race time that still counts, which on this occasion is 31:15. On par with last week, I guess. Will I ever eclipse the 30? Gonna have to like and follow to find out. This is your running brain on burnout. I'm running a 5K race every week for an entire year, but this was the first time the run felt more like a chore than a fun way to exercise.
Give it up for day 15!
The challenge goes on though, so here we are in Wickham Park, Manchester, Connecticut. If you ran cross country in any Connecticut middle or high school, chances are this park of rolling hills was your racing mecca. The week before I was busy moving house, so I was really tired and I found myself looking like a Sinead O'Connor tribute from trying to cut my own hair. Even worse was me forgetting to read for the second time and finding out the summer racing series was only 2.5 miles, meaning I had to finish the 5K distance with an out and back after crossing the line. Truth is, life goes on without a care for your fitness goals or the paces your favorite influencer told you should be at. Consistency isn't just about improvement at your best. Most of it's just deciding to show up when it gets difficult. So Strava says 30:45 of total movement time. We'll put that down with an asterisk. We'll take a break from as many training miles this coming week. Well, I've been chasing it for weeks, and I think it's time we stop clowning around. I'm running a 5K race every week for an entire year. And you see that, SpongeBob? The carnival is back in town. And it's here that we start one last push to break the PR I've been chasing for 16 weeks. Because like your everyday clown, this festival looks inviting and fun for the whole family. But enter its game and you're signing up to suffer. Running cross-country miles full of undulating hills through the woods in the hot grassy sun. 20-footers and 50-footers again and again until you've had enough. But this, mind you, is all part of the plan. Let the burnout of last week pass by focusing on cross-training and torturing through hills this week. Then next week, find a decently flat course to go all out for the 30. I'm done waiting for it. You as a viewer are probably done waiting for it. The race in Norwich hadn't blown up at this point yet, so I hadn't gotten such valuable advice from the internet at large. All hands are on deck, and it starts with this natural house of horrors in the heat. And I'll tell you, it's a good sign. Double 31s at the line, which isn't much of a bump up from the fast times. Give it a like and follow to see if this plan works. I'm running a 5K race every week for an entire year, and it took me 17 weeks, but it finally happened. A race finished under 30 minutes.
That tastes like promotion!
This is Hubbard Park in Meriden, Connecticut. Each year, the Rotary Club organizes a 5K for local pet rescues, and look at all the good boys and girls to cheer us on. But the pups weren't the only secret. A friend on Discord was getting rid of some shoes, so we found ourselves walking to the start on cloud monsters. Hey kids, you ever wanted to know what the moon boots from that one Arthur episode felt like? Now you can. So So a combination of new gear and a race with that dog in it became the perfect backdrop from this out and back. One that's strictly uphill the first half and downhill the way back, just how I like it. In this scenic, shady summer stroll, the conditions were perfect, the legs held up under the guidance of my most main character syndrome playlist, and the celebratory canola at Mariana's was even sweeter.
I freaked it.
We did it, Joe.
Final time at the line, 29:08, meaning we're on pace to hit 25 minutes by the end of the challenge. Like and follow to see how it goes.